Welcome to I Wrote That, a podcast where we bring authors and industry experts together to talk about all things books and make the journey to authorship just a little bit easier. My name is Larissa Sohan, and I am the CEO of Next Page Publishing, a hybrid publishing house where we help entrepreneurs write books to grow their businesses. Now, I'm on a mission to help aspiring authors feel like they are in control of the publishing journey and that they are supported by a team of experts who genuinely want the best for them and their books. If you are in the very beginning of your journey, or maybe you have a manuscript that you're finished and you're not sure how to get it out into the world, I encourage you to reach out to us at nextpagepublishing.net. You can schedule your free discovery call and find out how our team of experts can make your journey to being a published author easy, smooth, and successful. Now, without further ado, let's get on to our next amazing guest and make your journey to authorship a little less complicated. Amy Vogel is an accomplished author, speaker, podcaster, and book coach. With 2 published nonfiction books under her belt, her debut fiction novel comes out in January 2024, with more projects in the queue. She loves learning and sharing what she's learned, especially in story form. Her passion is to help people understand inherent worth and goodness, giving them a vision of wholeness meant for everyone, everywhere. She loves to help people discover who they are and who they were created to be and find ways for humans to thrive. Welcome, Amy.
Thanks for having me. Let's start there.
The first line in a podcast is always like, oh. I know. No, I don't know how many times I usually have to record an intro before I nail it. And it's like, okay, I know how to speak English. Let's do this. So welcome to the show. As of recording this, your book literally comes out in 4 days. By the time the episode airs, it'll be out for just over a couple of months. But let's talk about the jitters. And you mentioned you have 2 other books out there, nonfiction, but this one's fiction. And I find fiction hits different. There's a different writing process. There's a different purpose to fiction. So how are you feeling in the days leading up?
Yes to all of that. And the jitters are a little different this time. This is the second book that I'm self-publishing. So that side of it is a little different. And I'm doing it a little different than I did for my nonfiction book that I released in April. But, you kind of know what to expect. So it's not like the super anxiety-ridden, borderline panic attack kind of thing. But it's interesting. It is, it really feeds my need to make sure all the tasks are crossed off the list and all the ducks are in a row and want to control and micromanage all of the things. And I'm learning I have to let some things be. They're going to be what they're going to be.
Isn't that the truth? And I find that more so with fiction than I do with nonfiction, because I have books in both genres as well. I also have children's books. And with fiction, I find it's harder to know when to quit editing. It's harder to know when to walk away. With nonfiction, you're like, okay, this is my message. This is what I want to say. And I've said it. Fiction is different because I feel like you could edit for the rest of your life and never publish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And nonfiction and fiction, they're both stories. But just like you said, with nonfiction, I said what I said. I'm done, right? But with fiction, story crafting is a never ending process. And so you really have to be okay with what's on the page. I recently wrote a bonus chapter for my ARC readers for this book that's coming out called Teleosis. And I think I went back and edited it 3 times after I sent it to them. I'm like, okay, enough. The story's on the page. Let it stand for itself. And, that's what fan fiction's for.
Yeah, exactly. I know we have a fiction book, one of our first fiction books coming out in 2024. And it's a compilation book of short stories. And a lot of the authors already have other books. So they're doing it kind of like fan fiction. Basically, the short story that they're going to be writing is a lead in or a lead out of the previous books they have. And so you're absolutely right. You can always go back and make more. I have a 3-part series that I'm pretty sure could be 5 if I wanted it to be, right? With the lead-in story and the fallout story and all of that stuff. So it's so true. So you said 2 of your books are self-published. Is one of them traditional?
Yes. My first one, third person, was published through a publishing house, really a platform because they do a bunch of different things. It's called Seedbed out of Nashville, Tennessee. And so I worked with them in 2017. They released it in 2018. And then I actually submitted my second book, Come to Me, that I self-published to them. I submitted the proposal for it. And the funny thing is, when I hit enter on that email, sending them a proposal, I was like, I don't want them to publish it. I don't think it'll be what they want to publish, but I want to do this. And so I knew, even sending the proposal, that it was going to be mine.
Isn't that interesting? A lot of authors think that traditional publishing is the be all end all, like that is the best route to go. And then people who have gone through it are like, actually, it's quite limiting. Now, feel free to add on to this. I go over this a lot of why traditional publishing is not the best, and I'm curious to hear from your perspective. So one is you're not in control of the final product. Like your publisher can come in and say, I don't like your ending. I don't like this chapter. You got to cut it out. And you're at their mercy, because you've signed a contract with them. And if you want them to publish it, you got to do what they want to do. The second one is you're not in control of timelines. You mentioned that 2017 to 2018, like a year lapse in publishing time is quite astronomical. And then the distribution of it, you're not in control of that either. You don't have the right to sell your book on your platforms, on your terms, out of your events. So I'm curious, what was it for you that said you don't want to go that route again for your second book?
So I agree with all of that. I think traditional publishing obviously has its place. For me as a first-time author, that first time around, I had no clue, absolutely no clue what I was doing. So the people that I worked with were super helpful. They almost didn't know how much they knew, so they didn't share, right? Like I didn't know that I wasn't going to see the cover before it was announced at a conference that I was at. And I was like, that's the cover of my book. Wow, I didn't know that's what it was going to look like. And so for me, it was a good experience. It was kind of like loose hand holding entry into, like when somebody loosely holds your hand as you walk into the pool for the first time. That was what I was experiencing. So it was good. And yes, you learn all those lessons, and you learn the biggest lesson of all, which is you still have to sell it. Publisher only has a certain size platform. They only have a certain size distribution reach. They only can do so much anyway. So you got to go out and sell that baby, whether if you want it to sell and you want it to do well, you got to figure it out. And so for me, the second time around, I was like, you know what? I would like to see the whole process from start to finish. And if I'm going to have to sell it anyway, I would like to reap the majority of the benefit financially. So it was a question of, I could do it at that time in my life. I had the experience. I'm really, really grateful for it. I actually approached them about doing an audiobook, my publisher about doing an audiobook, and they gave me permission to do that because they weren't going to do it, but I had to go back to them and ask, right? So I wanted the agency. I wanted the sovereignty over this creative process, both for the book that I started with and any subsequent book. Now, does that mean if a publisher comes along and wants to do some kind of partnership, fantastic. I'm open, but I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket anymore.
Do you mind if I ask what the financial trade-off was for you working for that publisher? What was it? Did they pay you a royalty advance, or how did that work?
So mine was basically 10% of every book sold. So it works out to about, where they price the book, it works out to about $1.15 every book sold. So not bad for a first-time author, not great. I remember telling a friend of mine who is writing a book, and he's like, oh, I'm going to hook up with an agent. They're telling me they're going to get me all these deals. And I'm like, Brian, like, you're going to hope to get 10 to 12%. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. I mean, they're fronting the majority of the cost to get the book out into the world. And so for all of the blood, sweat, and tears and what you do in writing, it's just not a huge return. So, even publishing on Amazon, you get, somewhere between 45 and 60-ish% back in royalties. So, you're not going to get 100, you're going to reap 100% of the rewards. And just knowing that from a business perspective is super helpful going in.
There's so much I want to unpack there. We could spend this whole conversation on the royalty sharing and things like that. So did you get an advance from your publisher, or was it just royalty sharing? Okay. And that's what I'm hearing more and more. So I have not been traditionally published. I opted right from book one not to go that route. I didn't like it. I didn't like what they were pitching, what it was going to take. Some people can sit in publishing, like, I don't know how long did it take you to find this traditional publisher and sign with them?
Yeah, so mine was really quite fortunate. So I was working on this project. My first one was a devotional, and the pastor that I was working with, and I was in ministry at the time, and so the pastor I was one of my colleagues. I told him about it, and he was like, "Well, I'm in a small group with this guy who runs a publishing house. So once you finish the manuscript, give it to me and I'll put it in his hands." And that's how it happened. So,
oh, that's very good. Yeah.
Yes. So mine is a really unusual story in that sense, but it just goes back to, you got to have an in, really. Yeah. If the book's going to see the light of day, there has to be an advocate on the inside with a traditional publisher that says, yeah, we're going to put this out. And for me, it just so happens to be the CEO. If it was the other guys that I worked with, it might not have seen the light of day.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, so I'm just gonna put the stance in that you and I are both pro self hybrid publishing and traditional publishing. I agree with you, has its place, a time and a place. But it's not what it used to be. And it can be quite limiting for authors, and especially the authors that we work with at Next Page Publishing. A lot of them are brand owners. And so they want full agency over their book and their content to be exactly what they need it to be. They want the funnels, they want the control, they want all of it. So I also want to talk about the royalties, which is so funny. There is I don't know if you found this, there's a different kind of math when it comes to Amazon royalties. Yeah, author math is just hilarious. I was trying to explain it to one of our authors, or I always call them baby authors, because they're just like you were in the first book. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm trying to, and that's why a lot of people choose to partner with a hybrid, is because in traditional publishing, they don't owe you anything. They don't owe you the inside look at anything. They don't have to show you what the cover, they don't owe you anything. But hybrid, partnering with them, you can start to create that relationship of like, can you teach me? So that maybe it is a fish, like a teach Amanda fish scenario. I want to do books 2 and 3 on my own, but I need you to teach me. So hybrids can do that for you. But so trying to explain Amazon math to people, because you can choose 40 or 60% depending on what type of distribution you want. I always recommend 60. Global distribution is not great on Amazon, so always go 60. Yep. But it's not 60%. Do you notice that? Like, it is some other number.
Because you gotta pay for them to print it. You know, all of this other, like, it's like booking a hotel, right? You get the final bill and you're like, what? Why is it $250 a night when my rate was $99 a night? Like,
I know there's all these hidden fees in there, and but Amazon also doesn't owe you anything. And I think that's the hard pill for a lot of us self-published authors to swallow, is that if Amazon wants to do something, they're going to do it, and you are at their mercy, like 100% of the way. So I'm in the processes of, like, this year, I'd like to find a solution outside of Amazon for those brand owners to have something to sell their books and distribute their books that is not Amazon, because it's not a good two-way relationship for authors.
Well, and that obviously the big attraction is it's Amazon. Everybody's on Amazon. So the assumption is you start typing in something like your book title or your name, and that search is going to pop it up. Yeah, that's not the way the algorithm works. Amazon's going to do what is in its best interest. So that's you got to keep a weathered eye on that for sure.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for more information from like us at Next Page Publishing on like what are we doing to kind of try and solve that problem, because and it's also faceless readers. In the back half of this year, people that are starting to sign into our programs starting pretty much now are getting funnels built out of their books, so we can start collecting some of that information, because as brands, we need that. We rely on that information. So it's super important. I want to jump into sales, which is actually really on topic for what we're talking about in form of royalties. Because a lot of people think that if I publish a book, I'm going to be a millionaire. It's going to happen. I'm going to sell 1 million. I had one author tell me if she wanted to sell 1 million copies at $20 a piece, and she was going to have $20 million. And I was like,
Again, author math. Yeah.
Author math. Let's do some reality check. Like, you got print costs, you got shipping costs, you got royalty. Like, and so we backed her down. I said, even if you sold 1 million copies, you're looking at like max $4 million, and you still have to sell 1 million copies. So, but when it comes to
recoup all of your investment to get the book ready to print in the first place.
Yes, which is not cheap. And I think that a lot of authors think self-publishing should be free. And they, as soon as an editor comes to them and says, well, you have to pay this amount, they're like, what? That's a scam. And it's like, No, you're paying for a service. You're
Right.
paying for their time, their expertise, their education, and you're paying for an end product.
Hmm.
Self-publishing is not free. And so when people look at hybrid publishers, they're like, oh my gosh, you're ripping people off. And it's like, no, you are getting a book that is like 80% better than what you could have done on your own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A year ago, I talked to another, I would almost say like a concierge service, hybrid publishing for sure, but she was throwing out words like metadata and, other stuff. And I was like, oh, I was just taking notes and she was super helpful, but it was that me weighing that cost of, I wanted to learn about this self-publishing industry, but how much did I want to invest in that learning process? Could I do it on my own? Would it have been a quicker ramp up time and probably meant greater books sold for my first book if I'd gotten her help? Yeah, probably. But sometimes I just got to learn on my own. And so the idea of having a coach, someone who can, we've got coaches for everything. We've got life coaches, we've got physical trainers, we've got business coaches. If you want to be an author, you need a coach. Mm-hmm. Whether that's somebody who you engage in a mentor relationship with, or somebody you actually pay to walk you through the process. But yeah, nothing in this world comes for free, and nothing's an overnight success. So, as far as book sales, I know my first book has sold, and it's been out there since 2018, 2023. It's sold over 1,000 copies. That's a long time, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and if you really do the ROI on that, I didn't make much. And my goal with this first one out of the gate in April was to sell 500 copies, and I think I'm up over 300. So I'm taking that as a win, right? But it's just one of those things where it's like it's going to take a while to get. It's very, very rare for a first-time author to go gangbusters, and it's usually the second offering and then the first offering comes back around, right?
Yeah. I think that's very, very true. And I see that with my first book. My first book was a sci-fi. I relaunched it a couple of months ago because I was with a vanity press and it was not a good relationship. So I had to get all my content back from them, which is a whole nother episode that I've talked about at length before on this podcast of what that looks like. But it is the second book. It's the second book that's coming out. And so I've been marketing for the second book, and that is leading into sales for the first book. Right. And, now I have made my investment back on the first book. I think I probably sold like that 500 to 600 copies, which is getting it's starting to get into the zone of getting my investment back. And now I'm creating audiobooks and, I have this more flexibility to go bigger. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the coaching angle of what it is that you do. So what types of books are you coaching in right now?
I'd like to stay in my wheelhouse, right? So for the most part, nonfiction for sure. And then the stuff that I read is really what I'm good at coaching about. So for me, that's fantasy. That's, literary fiction is such a huge conglomerate, but evocative fiction is what I would say. The stories that really make you think, the stories that are well told. Some books out there that people rave about, I start to read them. I'm like, this is not well written, right? Like and so there's a do not finish. So for me, I like to coach definitely around the things that I know and the things that I'm practicing. And I would also say, because in the bio you read, I changed it recently. Instead of a book coach, I call myself a story coach, because there are multiple ways to tell a story. So it may not be a written book. It could be a podcast. It could be a blog. It could be a YouTube channel. What does that look like for you to get those stories out into the world? The creative process plus the administrative business side of that. Because, you can put art out there for free, but there's also ways to monetize it. So depending on just what you want to do and how that evolves over time those are the kind of relationships that I like to develop.
Awesome. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about what that coaching relationship looks like and how you can get the most out of it. Hey, aspiring author. Have you been exploring the idea of adding a book to your business and creating a step in your funnel that moves you from the free offer to that high ticket program that you have? You need a low ticket offer. And I'm talking between $3 and $20 that your audience can consume on their term and is in a format that they trust. And who doesn't trust a good book? Now, the trick becomes creating the content that actually converts into your high ticket offer. This is where Auth Her comes in. At the heart of the Auth Her event, We're helping aspiring authors with the basics. One is nailing down the art of writing that 5-star read. And we're creating the plan for how to make it successful. You can't just write a book. You have to market it. You have to know how to use it. You have to build it into your funnels. It's happening on March 18th. So secure your spot today. Head on down. You can click that link. It's right below here, and prepare for a day of unparalleled inspiration and actionable insights. I'll see you there. Okay, so we're back with Amy, and who is, sorry, what did you call yourself right before the break? You're not a book coach anymore. I call myself a literary coach or publisher. What is it that you call yourself?
A story coach.
Story coach. Okay, so when you work with clients, what kind of relationship do you set up with them that evokes the best story from them?
I start with an interview style, right? In order to get an idea of the breadth of the story, and I don't want to say the viability of a story because every story could be viable, right? And some stories are more powerful than others because they have more, for lack of a better word, dramatics to them. But even quiet stories are important to tell. And so I used to, 20 years ago, I used to be in recruiting and sales. So I got really good at asking questions. And my specialty in there was relationship sales. So I just got to know my clients in sales, and that made me a good salesperson. And so I apply those skills now. I was also a pastor for 10 years. And so for me, it is yes, it's a business relationship, but I'm going to need to have a concept of what your life looks like. And so it's, I would definitely say, yeah, there's definite business coaching that happens, but there's probably some life coaching that happens because that's just who I am as well. And so really more of my style of coaching is more mentor, mentee. I don't want to say friend, so to speak, but definitely colleague. That personal connection is really where I do best. And in fact, a couple of people that I've talked with and started to coach, it definitely has come down to that. And it's also, you're playing the long game when you're a coach with somebody. You're not instantly, like, great on you if somebody instantly hires you to be a coach, but you should get to know them as a person because they could be, they could be trying to take you for all you're worth. And so, so the people that I have coached up to this point, I have some kind of friendly relationship with them, some kind of connection beyond just the straight business aspect.
Yeah. I think I just did a live recently about red flags when you're hiring someone in the publishing space. And one of them is they have this cookie cutter approach to you in your book. Like, you're going to fit in this mold and it's going to work for you. And my experience with authors, we've been working with authors for just over a year now. We have over 50 at this point going through our programs. None of them have identical programs. Every single one of them is unique. They have their coach that specializes in their genre. They come to our weekly writing sessions, and it's all molded to what they need as the author. And a big part of what you're talking about is you got to know what they're like. And one of the red flags is if you're interviewing for a literary coach or for a hybrid publisher or an editor even, if they're not asking about what your goals are for this book and then making a custom plan to help you get there, then that is a red flag. Absolutely.
And you've got to trust your gut. When I was looking for a developmental editor for this book, Teleosis, I sent out, it's the funnel. You send out quotes and then you narrow it down. And so I narrowed it down to 3 people that I thought I really wanted to work with. I talked to 2 of them, and I went with my gut. I went with the person who knew what I was trying to say. She had a background. She actually had a master's degree in theology. And I was like, okay, so you're going to get what I'm trying to write here because it's deep stuff. And so I also did that with my cover designer. Same process. I whittled it down and got it down to 2. And then my oldest daughter was one of my alpha readers for this book. And she sat with me and we went through their portfolios. I mean, you've got to do your research. You can't just say, oh yes, this feels great. But also you have to trust your intuition to say, all right, this feels okay, but this feels right. And then you go forward with that. And then realize it's a relationship, and relationships change over time.
And always get a contract.
Always get a contract.
Always get a contract. I'm my own worst enemy.
Everything in it. Like,
yes.
I dotted, T's crossed. Yes.
Yes.
Nothing, no stone unturned.
I'm going to share just like a quick story here. So I am in the process of publishing my second sci-fi novel. And my first book, I had 3 rounds of editing because I was just wildly unhappy with the editing. They missed stuff. It was full of mistakes and it was awful. So that was a horror story. And then my second book, I found a new editor and she did a sample for me and it was great. And it was really good. And then I, being so excited, didn't get a contract. Like, come on, I work in the publishing field. I didn't do this. So she did all the editing for me, and it was a pay when the editing's done kind of a thing. So there was no issues there. But she sent me the file, and it was the ready to publish file. And I was reading through it, and I was like, this is worse than when I sent it to you.
Oh, wow.
Like it's awful. And I have been lucky. I was able to go back to her and say, like, what the heck happened? Like, this is terrible. And so she's doing it again. But she could have easily said, no, I did. I edited it. She had like 52,000 changes in the document or something like that. And I was like, what did you do? There is no way that there were that many mistakes and it's still in this state. So I have been lucky and she's still willing to work with me. Whether I'm willing to work there, I don't know yet, to be honest. But always get a contract, always understand what it is that you're getting when you're paying thousands of dollars for an end product. Literary coach, editors, designers.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to be a lawyer. You shouldn't have to have a lawyer review it.
No.
Either. Contracts are super simple these days.
Yeah. Get ChatGPT to, that's how I do a lot of my contracts. It's ChatGPT. And then I read it, I put my flair on it, and and you don't want one that you can't understand. I don't want a contract that I don't know what it's saying. I don't want that lawyer to be like, yeah, it's good. No, I want to know that it's good. Awesome. So as we wrap up this conversation, this has been so great. I'm going to ask you what my favorite question is for everybody. What advice do you have for aspiring authors?
Don't quit, man. Don't quit. I talked with an author recently. He published 3 novellas, and he gave it up because they didn't do as well as he thought they should. If this is what you've been brought to, if you have something that is burning within you, and yes, it's true that not all authors become full-time authors, but if you got the bug to tell a story, stay with it. Don't give up. If you have, if you're waking up in the middle of the night, if you're having dreams about it, if it stays with you, you stay with it, and it will eventually come to fruition. So just don't give up on it. Yeah.
There's a quote, you only fail when you quit.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me. And the other one is, it's just readjusting it's not a quote, but readjusting your expectations and your why, like for your friend, maybe just readjusting for the short term of like, this is just for fun. I'm just doing it to flex my creative muscle, have an outlet in my crazy life. And I just want to do it for fun. It's not making me a ton of money, but that's not the point. Right. And those people are fun to work with. And they're like, let's just have fun. Let's just make this the best it can be.
Absolutely. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know. So yeah, as a coach, I would definitely say, like you said, choose what your goals are and leave enough room to where those goals might change over time, especially as you see when you release your art into the world, see what happens. And it's funny because when people find out that I'm a published author, they're like, well, how did you do that? Well, I sat down and I finished the manuscript. The first book I ever finished was the first one that got published. So, just don't quit. Keep going. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any offers for our listeners that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So if you go on my website, which is Amy W, as in, it says in Wakefield, my maiden name, but W Wilson Vogel. So amywvogel.com. There's several free resources out there, a couple of journals that you can get. You have the opportunity to schedule a free 30-minute story coaching consultation with me. It's all there on the website. There's signed author copies that are available on the website. And I've got tons of stuff out there. Gosh, I have a blog. I have audio resources. My first book is a podcast on Spotify. So all out there on my website, amywvogel.com.
Perfect. And we'll make sure to put that link down in the show notes so you can go ahead and grab those. All right, Amy, thank you so much for coming. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of I Wrote That. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our show so you don't miss any of our upcoming guests. And if this has led you to some inspiration to want to get started on your own authorship journey, whether you just have an idea or you have a manuscript that you're ready to publish, reach out to us at nextpagepublishing.net, and we will match you up with our team of experts to make the journey simple, easy, and smooth.